Central rivals go head-to-head this weekend when the Pirates face the Cubs at Wrigley.
Swing and a miss. He struck him out.
The pregame at 3 Eastern, first pitch at 4. Saturday on ESPN Radio and the new ESPN app.
Coming up on the Best of the Paul Finebaum Show podcast, Billy Donovan close to making the jump to the NBA. If that happens, who will replace him at Florida? Danny Sheridan tells us who's favored to win the SEC in 2015, plus your phone calls. It's the Best of the Finebaum Show podcast, and it starts right now.
This is the Best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
And we welcome you to another day on the program, and hopefully it will be better than yesterday, although it's getting off to a bit of a rocky start. Anyway, welcome aboard. A lot of things happening. Some of the events of yesterday continue to linger on today. Don't forget the NFL draft is upon us. There's basketball in the news. There's another arrest in Tuscaloosa, dominating headlines down there. Your phone calls, of course, at 855-242-7285. Danny Sheridan, his forecast of the SEC this fall. We'll talk about the Billy Donovan situation. It's been lingering for weeks. And the big swagoo will be with us as well. A lot going on. Cyrus Jones is in the news. The Alabama cornerback has been arrested, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But first, the lead story of this day concerns Billy Donovan. We've been talking about this for weeks, if not months, several times with Mark Stein. He's reporting again today that the Thunder have met with Billy Donovan, and he is leaning toward leaving. The GM of OKC was in Florida today, according to reports, and all indications are Donovan will take that job, that according to ESPN. Tom Penn, the NBA analyst, was on with Colin today. He doesn't think it's such a hot idea.
I wouldn't, but what a tremendous risk bringing in an unproven NBA coach. I mean, the list of failures is a mile long of the best college guys coming for all the right reasons and just faltering and failing miserably. And with a veteran-laden team like this that is desperate for leadership and help to get them to a championship level, if Billy Donovan doesn't win that group over day one, it could go bad fast, and then everything falls apart in Oak City.
So that's Tom Penn on The Herd today with Colin Cowherd. So certainly not a ringing endorsement, although most people think this will happen, and most people think it is a good idea. So what will happen at Florida, we'll find out here in a couple of minutes. One thing about this story, it has been rumored for months. You have arguably the best athletic director in the country in Jeremy Foley. He clearly has a path developed. I don't think this will take long to replace Billy Donovan if indeed he leaves, which almost everyone expects that he will. Remember, in 2007, after winning back-to-back national championships, he took off for Orlando. He was back in a week. Meanwhile, in Tuscaloosa, Nick Saban shaking his head about the arrest of cornerback Cyrus Jones, the fourth Crimson Tide player to be arrested this spring. He has been charged with 2 counts of third-degree domestic violence. That is according to the Tuscaloosa County Jail website. He started all 14 games. He was held on 1 count of harassment and 1 count of criminal mischief. Nick Saban has a statement on this, and here it is. We don't condone any behavior that shows any kind of disrespect. There was no physical contact in this situation. Once we get the facts, we will take the necessary steps to correct this behavior in the future. So Saban not wasting much time on this. Of course, everyone well aware of the Geno Smith, the Jonathan Taylor situation earlier, and the Tyron Jones. So a lot of bad news down there. Certainly more problems for the former LSU lineman that we talked about yesterday, Lyle Collins. He has left the NFL draft to go back and try to deal with his attorney and authorities. We'll follow that story up later on with the big swagoo. So that's where we are. Not a great day to start with a lot of news coming in many different directions. We'll get to your phone calls in a moment, and then some reaction from Gainesville on the possibility that Billy Donovan could be taking off. 855-242-7285. Meanwhile, we have a baseball game going on at Camden Yard, and there's nobody there. That's, of course, as a result of the police and police disruption going on, the issues over the death of Freddie Gray. So weird things happen in sports. Just when you think you've seen everything, you see a baseball game with no one there. Police authorities and the commissioner came to that conclusion. The new commissioner of baseball, Rob Manfred. Many people didn't like the idea. Many felt it would be a better idea to have the game being played to show the city can come together. Last night, no violence in Baltimore, not very much. However, I'm sure this was a liability issue, and certainly the police are being dispatched elsewhere as opposed to baseball games. Let's check in first with Harold. Harold, good afternoon. It's been too long. How are you?
Yeah, it's good to talk to you, Paul.
You bet.
A statement last night on ESPN, and I won't mention the announcer's name. He's well known. On talking about when the Orioles returned to Camden Yard on May the 11th. And he said this: one wonders what Camden Yard will look like on May the 11th. To me, that sounds like he thinks perhaps things could get out of hand some more. What does it sound like? Would you make a statement like that when when the Orioles get through with this game today with no people? And
let me say that, Harold. You know me pretty well.
Right.
There's a temptation with stories like this to be flippant, to throw stones, and I'll admit I've done that in the past. And,
right.
But I don't really know any more than the next person. I'm watching all the coverage. I have many feelings and many mixed emotions about what I see. I will tell you, I was struck today watching one of the networks, and they had two members of rival gangs, and they were talking about bringing the country together. I'm like going,
wow.
Okay, well, thanks for showing up. I mean, I think that just shows the intersection of communities and cable television. I'm not blaming cable television for this,
no,
but you almost watch and you wonder, are we completely ignoring 5,000 to 6,000 people dying in Nepal? Are there other issues going on, whether it was in the Supreme Court yesterday, whether it was elsewhere? But and I know both, Harold, why the three major cable networks covered this story. It has little to do with their concern with the community in Baltimore. It has everything to do with ratings.
Of course it does, and to see who could outdo the other, who could sound the most negative, who could a very conservative perspective from Fox, a very liberal perspective from MSNBC, and a little of both from CNN. But you get three diametrically different points of view on the situation. But it's so tragic to see this. It reminds me of Ferguson, and I kept thinking, Paul, and you probably remember this as a kid when the Democratic Convention in Chicago in '68. Do you remember watching that?
I remember it vividly.
Yeah, that was brutal. That was brutal. I remember.
Well, I mean, you had the mayor of Chicago pretty much ordering his police force to go out and bust heads, and not only of the protesters but of the media inside that hall.
Yes, I'm sure Dan Rather remembers that well.
I bet he does.
Good talking to you, Paul.
Thank you, Harold. Good to hear from you. Always good. Casey is next up in Alabama.
Hey,
Casey.
Paul, how you doing?
Okay, thank you very much.
I just want to see what your thoughts. A couple of things. First thing, my old brother, he actually went down to a Nick Saban camp when he was still in school, and I was privileged enough to go and get to meet Saban. And one thing is, I'm sure you know, he really preaches hard about is discipline. Be the type of person you want to be. Now, I'm not saying he's not preaching that anymore, but how does this make Alabama's program look in the eyes of everybody else with 4 people already being arrested this year?
It makes them look pretty bad, because I think you expect more from Alabama. Maybe not more than anyone in the country, but maybe more than almost anyone else. And I think every one of these cases has a different story. The one today I'm somewhat perplexed by. The allegations are that the player broke the cell phone of his girlfriend. I don't know the laws of Alabama intricately in terms of domestic violence and how it relates to material possessions, but I'll wait to find out more. But right now, I think this case appears to be worse than maybe it really is.
Do you think this is hurting? Is it hurting Alabama as an institution, or is it hurting Saban as a coach? Which one is it hurting more, do you think?
I'm not sure it's really having much impact on either one yet, because none of these cases, I think, have come to the end of the judicial process, and I think you do have to wait. I think Alabama is no different, no matter how hard Nick Saban tries, and I think he tries. He's very diligent about bringing people in. Young people make stupid mistakes every day of the week, and so do middle-aged people, and so do elderly people. So I don't think I don't think people are saying, "Hey, that's a bad place to go because there have been 4 arrests." Because LSU has a player that just left who's being interviewed today, perhaps not as a suspect yet, but certainly as someone that they're trying to ascertain information about in relation to a murder. So, pick your poison here.
Let's turn the table a little bit of different news other than the jury news we've been hearing the last few days. I've read a small article out of Louisiana. It's probably some kid who works for the school saying if there is not more than 8 or 9 wins by Les Miles this season, it's a possibility that they're looking. And I'm a fanboy of him, Coach Hud, Mark Hudspeth. What do you think about that? And I'll hang up and listen. And good talking to you, Paul.
Thank you. Yeah, Mark Hudspeth is a very good coach, but I don't think anyone knows the answer on Les Miles. I think the problem is this: when you start getting speculation from anyone, it doesn't matter whether it's me, you, or the student newspaper in Baton Rouge, and people start saying, you know what, he better win this number of games. He better win 7. He better win 8. We had Jacob Hester, who played for him several years ago, who played for Les, saying he better win 10 or I don't think it's a very good season. That's trouble, because once you get that speculation, once you get that noise, and you have a bad season, you are likely to be gone. That's where Les Miles is right now. No one knows what the number is. No one knows that there is even a number, but the speculation is negative.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Kevin Brockway joins us. He's with the Gainesville Sun and also the Gator Hoops podcast. We talked to Kevin several times about the possibility of Billy Donovan leaving. And Kevin Brockway, kind of take us through the last couple of weeks. This rumor is not a rumor. It's the worst kept secret in Gainesville, I'm sure, by now.
Yeah, we have confirmed that they are talking, and right now I think everyone here is in wait-and-see mode, and certainly when you hear reports that Donovan is excited about the possibility to coach in Oklahoma City, there's a palpable sense of tension here right now in terms of, whether Donovan will return for his 20th season. But, we've been down this rodeo before. In 2007 he did accept, the Orlando Magic job and changed his mind, but this is certainly going to be would be a tough opportunity to pass up in terms of, a team that reached the NBA Finals in 2012 with Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook still on the team.
Kevin, it's always easy for us to put ourselves in Billy Donovan's shoes, but to me, it's hard to turn around now. If he wasn't interested in this, he could have nipped it in the bud weeks ago. He hasn't done that. Has Billy Donovan said anything publicly since OKC made the change?
No, he has not. He's been, hiding under the guise of the fact that he's recruiting. There have been no public statements. We've tried to reach out to him personally. Several other publications have as well. So, I think the silence kind of speaks volumes in that regard. I've talked to a few incoming signees who said that they haven't had much contact with him over the last month as well. Keystone and Kavarius Hayes, who just signed their letters of intent in April. They're more communicating with the assistant coaches, Anthony Grant and John Pelfrey at this point. So really there hasn't been much that Billy has said publicly on this, but obviously we know that he's talking at this point. And we know, Paul, that he's never really shut the door in terms of his level of intrigue in coaching in the NBA. I think certainly he sees the success that some of his players have gone on to the NBA level. I mean, there are 10 former Gators right now that are playing in the NBA playoffs, or at least did at the start of the playoffs. I think there's a level of intrigue there that maybe he could give it a go at that level and have some success.
Kevin, certainly when Will Muschamp was fired, we had already come up with short lists. I mean, we had about a year, maybe a year and a half to get ready for that. This isn't quite that long, but we've had plenty of time. We were talking during the break about the possibilities, and other than the two assistants on the staff, both of whom have been SEC head coaches, what other names would likely be raised?
Well, I think with the assistants, you have to take a look at the fact of, keeping the recruiting class together, which is a good recruiting class right now. It's ranked 9th in the nation. So I think that John Pelfrey and Anthony Grant would definitely be considered. The only other name I've really heard outside the program that would have any interest that would be intriguing would be Archie Miller of Dayton, who, of course, led Dayton to the Elite Eight, where they eventually lost to Florida in 2014. I mean, I think he's a good up-and-coming mid-major coach. His name has been kind of thrown around a little bit, but I still think it's a little early to speculate until the deal is done. And, to phrase a Yogiism, it ain't over till it's over. And I've even been through this situation where we thought it was over, and then Billy Donovan came back. So, you never really know. There's still a family pull that could bring him back to Gainesville, but like you said, he's kind of gone down this road pretty seriously at this point.
Kevin, certainly he's earned the right to take his time. I mean, he's legendary. What he's done for that program is simply spectacular. But I wonder, inside that community, if patience isn't running just a little bit thin about the way this thing has been playing out for a considerable time.
Well, I think you factor in the 16 and 17 season, too, Paul. I mean, he's not necessarily leaving the program in the greatest of shape. And, certainly in 2007, he went through that rebuild as well, where, you had 2 NIT seasons after the back-to-back national titles. But he stayed, he rebuilt it, he got it to a Final Four level, and they kind of went off the ledge this year. So there's a slight, segment of the fan base that's a little frustrated as far as that's concerned, Paul. But I think overall, if you take a look at the big picture and what Billy's accomplished at Florida, there's a lot of gratitude, and there's some feeling that, certainly he deserves to take this opportunity, and he's given Florida, almost 2 decades of his life, basically, and has, taken the basketball program to heights never before kind of imagined. Lon Kruger took more Final Four, but 4 Final Fours and 2 national titles in 19 years. That's an incredible run.
Is the sense in Gainesville and around that community that he is going to take it?
Yeah, I'd say 75-25 now. If I were handicapping it, Paul, I just think that, the only thing that could, I think, possibly bring him back would be obviously the family pull. He's got a daughter, Connor, that's in 8th grade. He's got his second youngest son that's going into his junior, senior of high school. I'm sure he's going to confer with them, before he makes a decision. Billy's a very kind of a devout family man that way. And maybe his relationship with Jeremy Foley. Or if he reaches out to Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook and doesn't feel like the temperature is right there, with the star players. That could play into it, too, because apparently, according to a Yahoo report, he's reaching out to them as well.
Yeah, I guess if they don't call him back, that would be a good sign. But I suspect they all know each other pretty well. Listen, you've been really kind with your insight on this. For all of our sakes, particularly yours, I hope it ends soon one way or the other. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Yeah, we'll be waiting for the smoke to arise in Fairhaven and Gainesville here. So
you got it. Appreciate the call.
Thank you.
Kevin Brockway, always plugged into the Gainesville basketball scene, and you would have to think he's leaving. I don't know. Yes, he's not like Billy's calling me, but I hope he takes it. I hope he wish him well, and then we'll see what happens in Gainesville. I do think Archie Miller is an interesting name. We heard his name a lot. Some thought Alabama was interested in him as well. He is a great coach, has done a phenomenal job. He would certainly fit in well down there, I suspect, in terms of keeping the assistant coaches. If Anthony Grant leaves, then maybe he holds on to John Pelfrey or at least someone to try to shore up this very good recruiting class.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Hey, Al.
Good afternoon, Paul. How are you?
Well, thank you.
I have 2 questions. My first question is about all the athletes here lately in the news. how come it is that we don't ever hear anything about female athletes being arrested or DUIs or marijuana charges and things like that? And when I say female athletes, I'm talking mainly the main sports, softball, basketball, and gymnastics. And the second question I would like to ask of you is if we could put Ohio State's schedule up and look, I don't see anywhere on their schedule that with what they have coming back that they should even have a bump in the road. And I think their hardest game would be Michigan State. And if I'm not wrong, correct me, I think they have that game at home.
You are correct about that. They're probably two toughest games would be Virginia Tech on the road on that first Monday night and then at Michigan. As far as female athletes, I would dare say, without knowing this, that very few female athletes in comparison to male athletes are arrested, although it was just last week that the most prominent female professional basketball player in the country, Brittany Griner, was arrested for an altercation with her fiancé. It made big national news, and it continues to be covered.
Well, do you think in the Cyrus Jones case that the roles were reversed if the woman and by no means am I think any of this is lightly, but if she was to have broken his phone and made some kind of threat, I don't even think he goes and makes a report. And it just seems like these days it's so much easier for the police to make an arrest and just
let me stop you though, Al. And I mean, it's a fair conversation. You know, do men respond like women? Well, let's look at the height and weight of these two individuals. We know Cyrus Jones is an Alabama football player and would be fairly strong. I don't know who the woman is, and I don't know. You know, maybe she's strong too, but it doesn't make any difference whether she is or isn't. I mean, he is going to have dominance over her. So. And a lot of men, I've seen stories on this, men are less likely to report that a female beat them up than the other way around. Why is that? Can you answer me?
Yes, because I went through it, as I think we talked about this a few months ago. It's more of a, in my situation, it was too embarrassing to talk about that I was allowing something like that to go on. We grow up as men as to be tough, don't cry, let things go, stuff like that. And it's just, I don't know, sometimes you feel like you are going to be ragged by your friends and other men. I don't know.
I know I asked you this at the time, Al, but how often was your situation? Was it a habitual thing? Did it occasional? What was it?
Probably once or twice a month.
Okay.
And it was more, you know, browbeating, verbal threats, things of that nature. And it's just, you know, I think I'm 52 years old, and we grow up as men that you just,
sure,
we just seem to take that. And I don't know. I just think a lot. When you read going across the bottom of ESPN that Cyrus Jones was arrested on 2 counts of third-degree domestic violence, that looks really bad until you see exactly what happened, and it doesn't look as bad as it seems, but yet now this kid's name's out there, and it's going to be talked about, and by no means am I making light of it.
Let me ask you this, though. I don't know very many facts of the Cyrus Jones case. I mean, right now they're allegations, but what would have possessed him in this case to allegedly break her cell phone?
Maybe she was talking to another guy. Who knows?
Yeah. Have you ever broken someone else's cell phone?
No, sir, I haven't.
I haven't either.
No, sir, I sure have not.
I mean, I'll tell you why I haven't. It's too difficult to put one together in the first place in terms of downloading and reinstituting. Hey, thank you for the call. I understand where you're coming from. It's a fair point, and many will, I'm sure, opine about that. Let's check in with Lance next. What's up, Lance?
You care if I talk about some callers real quick? I don't want to hate on nobody now, but I just want to ask you. Rich said something yesterday. He was talking about, he said I was a good dad. I appreciate that. But I don't want to be on the show to be a good dad. I want to be a good sports caller, man. He said I suck on crazy. I think I'm getting a bad rep from the basketball season. I thought if I got a little something right, I might get a little credit as a sports fan. But I know he don't like loud people, but just because you're loud don't mean you're a better caller. I don't think I'm the best caller, or I'm better than him, or he's better than me. I just think all the callers together make this show great, along with your help. You know what I'm saying, Paul?
I do.
I just think there's different kinds of callers. You know what I mean? I can't help who I am. I just got fire and passion, man. You understand?
I'm in.
That's just it. But I don't understand why Darryl keeps calling in hate on Kentucky fans when he was a Kentucky basketball fan all season, Paul. Remember when he said, I've been a Duke fan my whole life, but I'm a realist. They will lose. What happened, Darryl? You don't even know your own team, just like you don't know Georgia. But, hey, you think you could ask Darren Sheridan the over-under on Georgia's total win season this year? Because if it's any more than 8, I'm going to bet the farm, Paul.
I'll ask him.
I wish you would, man. But I do like some of you callers really well, man. Man, Bobby and K-Dub, really good people, man. You got a good crew on the show, Paul. But you're the best, man. You know that. But,
well, listen, I said this. What about Jim?
Go ahead. Your boy Jim, I think he just don't like me because I'm a high riser, man. It took him 10 years for somebody to know his name. It took me about 2 weeks, Paul, but he'll have to live with that.
Well, let me say this about it. Hold on a second.
Go ahead.
First time Jim called this program, he made his presence known. He was as compelling on day one than he was yesterday.
Oh, you mean when he's talking about the nerd show? He ain't never made a compelling call. I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe I just don't understand his call. He don't talk about sports. He don't even have a team. I mean, he run his mouth about Alabama all year. Then when they lost, he called in and said, well, I'm not an Alabama fan. All he does is hedge his bets. He talk about what a great athlete he is. How come we ain't never seen a picture? How come you ain't never seen him in the newspaper clippings? How come you ain't never seen him in no hardware? He's all talk, Bob. He's a fake. And just because you agree with him don't mean the whole world does. And that's where Jim gets confused. Because y'all are buddies. He thinks, everybody.
Lance, he told you the facts, Lance. He told you the facts. I took the show by storm. You ain't taking nothing by storm. You are a storm, but you're a bad storm. You're like a destructive storm. You got a loud mouth. You brag. You talk about the same thing over and over. You listen to you one day is like listening to you for a week. You say the same thing every day. I didn't do that. I'll just tell you, I didn't do that. I don't do that. I'm variety. I'm broad. I'm articulate. I'm smart, and I'm a better caller than you because I know more about things than you do. And you just trying to make a name for yourself. I was trying to contribute to the show. I'm not trying to be a big shot and talk about some team. I'm constructively objective. You're not objective, Lance. You're not objective at all. That's what's wrong with you.
What's that to be objective about, buddy?
Well, you're not objective about teams you're talking about every day.
You don't even call them basketball because you
I don't talk about sports much anymore because I don't care about sports that much. But
you don't talk about sports because you don't know nothing about sports.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Really looking forward to the conversation with Danny Sheridan. We do care about that. The well-known sports analyst, as we're now done with spring football. We thought we would get Danny's take on the upcoming college football season and then maybe something else. If he'll oblige. Danny, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. Got to ask, is it really true that you are speaking at the Ole Miss Law School commencement this weekend or next weekend?
That is correct. It's actually a week from Saturday.
What
are the odds of me getting through that without getting booed off the stage?
No, I think you'll be fine. I'm just shocked. I don't mean this in the wrong way. I think that's quite an honor. I was just surprised. Have you ever spoken to a law school graduating class?
I've never spoken to a trade school commencement. This is a numero uno for me.
Well, you're beating the odds, Paul. What can I tell you?
No, I'm afraid to ask who turned down the gig, but I am looking forward to it. And I'm sure there's a joke in here somewhere, Danny. But if the law school graduates about to be lawyers turn out badly, then they just join a lot of other lawyers who have turned out badly, huh?
Hey, what you ought to do is you ought to get someone to tape it and then play it on the SEC network. Just a thought. Your listeners might like to see it.
Yeah, that's the scary part. Usually these things are available. I know last year's speakers was available on YouTube, but then again, he was a fairly famous person, unlike this year's speaker.
Well, good luck. I'd like to attend. If I was in the area, I would stop by. I don't know if they'd let me in, but I'd stop by. It's
in the Grove. I don't think you have to have a ticket, but anyway, I'll see if I can get you a VIP pass. I know you'd be a big hit there. It's at 11 o'clock in the morning. That's fairly early for you, isn't it?
It depends on how late I stay up that night. Depends if I shoot dice like I did last night, but whatever.
Well, it's in the state of Mississippi. I know you've been there a few times late at night.
I was there last night.
Oh, okay.
Biloxi.
Yeah, know it well. Danny, not to revisit old dirt here, but you certainly have not been a huge fan of Urban Meyer in the past. Many of our colleagues, people that I respect, like Bruce Feldman and others, have stated on this program that they think Urban Meyer has passed Nick Saban as the best coach in college football. What do you think?
He's a very excellent coach, and Paul, it's only, 2 years ago when I sort of made an outlandish statement. And as you know, I picked Ohio State last year. They were an underdog, I think, 4 or 5 times, but I picked them to upset Alabama, not to beat the spread. I didn't do it because I had nothing better to do. And I picked him to beat Oregon. I thought that was an easy pick. He's done an outstanding job. They got a very talented team. And if I don't rate coaches, but if you ask me, obviously Saban and Meyer, there's some really good coaches behind them, but those are certainly 2 of the best. And I look forward to continue that way for a while, especially with the talent that those 2 have put at their schools.
So you are saying that you think Meyer is at least one of the 2 best
coaches? I said it last
year
on the show. He's definitely a good coach. Just got a little carried away. Remember, it was taken out of context in the sense that 2 years ago we were talking about what do I consider, and I said building a program and not inheriting a program, and then it just got off on another tangent. But of course he's a good
your biggest beef with him really wasn't so much at Ohio State; it was at Florida. Isn't that correct?
Well, Florida and Utah. I just thought he inherited a great program. He's still a good coach, and I said it. And to me, when you talk about, and again, I'm gonna get right back in there again, Paul. When you talk about a good coach, when you take a program like Alabama, when Saban took over, would I be correct in assuming that it was not a good program? You tell me.
Well, you live in Alabama. It was a terrible program.
Right, I know I do, but you go all across the country. So I was very, very impressed with what Saban did. But when you inherit a program with a lot of talent and you do well, that's a plus, but it's not the same as building a program from the bottom up. And that was the conversation 2 years ago. But as far as today, heck yeah, those 2 are the best. They have the best record. They're going to be slugging it out for the foreseeable future. And there's a lot of great coaches out there.
2 weeks ago, Steve Spurrier was on this program, not happy with a description of his season last year as being mediocre. He's 70 years old. You've been friends with him 25 or 30 years. Where is he right now? How soon will he step down, particularly if he doesn't turn it around?
I don't see him stepping down. I think this is what he enjoys. I think he does a good job at it. And if you want to talk about being 7-6 last year, yeah, that's mediocre, I guess. But what about 33-6, 3 straight 11-2 seasons at South Carolina, which I never thought would happen? And to brag on him, he's one of 4 schools in the entire college football community that has won 4 straight bowl games. So again, yes, last year I guess was a downer, but heck, Paul, I told him his biggest mistake was being 11-2 3 straight years in a row. It really raised the bar. And how many coaches out there at any school wouldn't want to be 11-2 for 3 straight? Well, the majority, about 99% of them, would love to be 11-2 one year, more or less 3 straight years. I don't see him retiring anytime soon if his health holds up. And I think South Carolina, they're going to be better than last year. And it looks to me like he's going to start building the program. When I say back up again, it's not like it's fallen off the map. I don't think South Carolina's an easy out. Vanderbilt's an easy out, but not South Carolina.
Let me ask you about sports handicapping, because you mentioned something interesting earlier about Alabama being inflated. Why is Alabama always, or maybe not always, but why have they been so inflated, at least from a Vegas standpoint?
Well, when you say, now I think about it, I don't remember the last time Alabama was an underdog. I'm talking about a point spread underdog.
The SEC championship game in 2009.
All right, so that's 50-something games ago, right? And they won that game, too, I might add. But
they did.
To answer your question is what we've talked about. The point spread is the betting public's perception of how two teams match up. It's not a prediction, and it's designed to get equal betting on both sides. So if the public perception is that Alabama, and I might throw Ohio State in there too because their perception is going to be unbelievable this year, double-digit favorite over everyone because the public perceives Ohio State and Alabama and TCU and probably Auburn, but certainly those three, as being unbeatable, great programs, et cetera, and that's why they're rarely an underdog. If that makes sense, that's why. It has nothing, again, to do with the outcome, and that probably hurts you. I know as a lot of my coaching friends don't like to be a favorite, especially in a big game, i.e. Oregon over Ohio State and Alabama over Ohio State in the Sugar Bowl.
There's a pretty big fight on Saturday night. What is the betting public saying about Pacquiao and Mayweather?
Well, I guess the early money so far, the majority of money will be on the day of the fight, or certainly that weekend. But I guess right now you'd say it's Mayweather's a 2-1 favorite, and probably most of the bets, not an overwhelming amount, but most of them are on Pacquiao, the challenger. And that generally happens, the underdog. The scary thing about it, Paul, is boxing, judging, very subjective, and you're talking about two fighters with different styles. One's relentless, that's Pacquiao. His style is unbelievable. He just keeps charging. And the other guy, Mayweather, smart, defense, hit, and not be hit. So it's going to come down to what the judges think. It's favored to go the distance. I think the last 5 fights these guys have had I think they've gone the distance their last 5. And it would be surprising if there were a knockout and it didn't go the distance. 5 years ago, I don't think it would have gone the distance, but I don't mean to say they're over the hill, but boxing-wise, they're getting up there.
And finally, another event Saturday that there's legal gambling on, and that is the Kentucky Derby. I saw something recently that the favorite rarely, if ever, wins. Why?
I don't know the answer to that. They just don't win. The favorite is probably the betting public's perception, again, of who the favorite should be, and they're wrong. Favorite generally does not win that race, and that would be the only thing I know about horses is not to stand behind them or get them mad. But the favorite has just had I don't remember, I wrote an article many years ago about how favorites had done in the Kentucky Derby, the Belmont, and the Preakness, and the Derby was really, really bad. So I guess if someone's going to wager, don't wager on the favorite, which would probably be, I think it's American Pharoah.
Danny Sheridan spending some time with us on the program with his thoughts on the upcoming college football season, as well as a few other things going on this weekend, one of the biggest sports weekends of all time. Danny, many thanks. Always good to catch up.
Thanks for having me on, Paul. Good luck at Ole Miss graduation.
Thank you very much. At least there are no odds on that, Danny.
It'd be pretty hard to put odds on. But you'll be fine, I'm sure. A little nervous, but you'll be fine.
Thank you very much.
Hey, listen, the beauty of it is they'll probably believe what you tell them.
That's the scary part.
It is.
Very scary.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Justin is next up in Louisiana. Hey, Justin.
Hey, how you doing, Paul?
Very well, thank you.
I just want to talk a little bit about the Cyrus Jones incident.
Okay. Sure.
Even though I'm from Louisiana, I'm a big Alabama fan. But yeah, I know a lot of the domestic violence is pretty big. But as well as I do, he didn't touch her or anything like that. Broke the cell phone. But what I want to say is, I see all these Alabama people talking about they want to kick him off the team and stuff like that. But when it comes down to it, you want to kick everybody off the team, makes a little mistake like that, then have a losing season. They don't say, well, what happened? They want to blame it on Saban. They want to blame it on this and that. But
let me ask you a question, Justin. What's the fine line? What's the line of demarcation from you in terms of what someone needs to do to be expelled from the team?
Well, like the Tyron Jones and all of the marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's something, that needs to be handled because it was, a second offense. And, as well as the other. But Cyrus Jones, I think, if it come down to it and then the facts came back and he did harm her, yeah, kick him off. But,
what do you think it says about? I mean, I don't know the facts. You seem to like What does it say about someone who would get into an altercation with anyone, for that matter, and then have that person break or damage the other person's personal property?
Yeah, I mean that's a guy. I mean, I ain't saying she might have been in the wrong.
What do you mean? Hold on a second. What do you mean that's a guy?
Well,
explain.
He's a football player, just like me. Lose your temper a little quick, just like that. But I'm saying that she might have, said something, that upset him, and he just flew off the handle. But in respect that he shouldn't have done that. But I wouldn't kick him off the team or anything like that. Punish him, maybe suspend him, a game, but take his punishment out on the field. Running through those up.
What do you think it says about someone's character that potentially could lose his cool to such a degree that he would destroy something? That doesn't bother you at all?
It's not a good character.
No.
You're representing a great team in college football.
Right.
People look up to you. You don't want to see nothing like that. But
right.
That's to suspend him and kick him off the team. Just because he got arrested. But people don't know what really happened. But
no. And by the way, we don't know what really happened. And I don't know. I just know one thing. I've never done that. Maybe my life will change. Have you ever destroyed something in an argument with a friend or a wife or a girlfriend?
Oh no.
Okay.
I've gotten altercations, but nothing like that. A little arguing match. But
yeah, sure.
But
just I appreciate your call very much. I think Jim was cut off earlier, and he's back now. And Jim, what's up?
Yeah, well, I wanted to, kind of finish what Lance said. I didn't know anything about sports. You think that's true? I mean, you've heard what I said about sports for 8 or 9 years. Did I know sports, or do I know sports, or do you think Lance knows as much about sports as I do?
Well, there's a difference between what you talk about and what Lance talks about.
I'm talking about what I talked about when I first got on the show for 5 years. Anybody above me on sports, even Shane?
No, you talk about issues. Lance talks about what's on the field.
Did I not talk about what's on the field during that first 5 years?
Yeah, sure, of course you did.
And every other, and basketball and all that?
Sure you did.
Did I know it?
Yeah, no doubt.
Do I know it better than Lance?
Well, Lance looks at things in a very narrow fashion.
Paul. You don't want to run the little punk off. By the way, you did say, come on, Paul, I'm not going to play the game with that. That guy's a clown. You know it, and I know it. He can't, as you used to say, he can't lay a glove on me. He can't lay a glove on Legend. We're the two of the guys that are the holdovers from the history of classic callers.
Well, he did.
He
was one of the few people here that said Kentucky wouldn't win and Duke would. I didn't say that.
Yeah, well, if he says enough, he's going to get something right. He says so much every day, he's bound to get one thing right. But by the way, let's clear something up. I know I heard you, and I know you're a nice guy. Did you not? You announced that Danny would take some calls about 10 minutes ago. Then he didn't. What happened? You did say that.
Listen, Jim, you know our track record with Danny. When Danny's been on the show, we've always encouraged phone calls. He opted not to take calls. I can't do anything about that.
Then you cleared up what John and I were arguing about off air a few minutes ago. He said, "Oh no, Jim, Paul didn't say he would take calls." And I knew I heard you say he would.
Well, no, that was a little misleading. I gave the phone number, but I didn't. I should have said he. As soon as I did that, I realized that he wasn't taking calls.
But you're admitting you did that, and that's all I told you.
Oh, there's no question. I gave the phone number out while he was on. Yes.
And you said he would take calls.
Listen, I don't want to sound like the mayor of Baltimore, Jim, and say I didn't say something that I did. But yeah, I said that. You're right.
John, okay, then there you are, John. You emphatically told me a while ago. John said, oh, no, he didn't say he'd take calls. You know, but I just like to get the record straight.
But,
you
Jim,
know.
I didn't say he would. I gave the number out, and as I was saying it, I realized he wasn't going to take calls, but there was nothing I could do. I didn't want to say, oh, here's the number, but don't call.
That's not the point, Paul.
Okay.
All I'm getting at is you did announce for a brief second he was going to take calls.
Let's say yes, even though we're equivocating over
I'm trying to make my point to John that he called me a liar more or less by saying, okay, you get my point here?
John, do you want to
No, I don't even want to talk to John. He's so emphatically...
You said we're going to take your calls.
Yeah, I said your calls.
You're going to take your calls and gave the number. Never said we're going to talk to Danny Sheridan. Jim, I didn't call you a liar either. Don't worry.
Paul announced that Danny was going to take calls. That's my only point.
No, he didn't, Jim. No, he didn't.
Yes, he did, John. You're a moron, as usual. Bye, Paul.
Bye, Jim.
I said, I gave the number, and I said, we will take your calls. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, I don't think you ever said once.
No, I never said we will take your calls for Danny Sheridan. I said, Danny Sheridan's coming up, 855, whatever, we'll take your calls. I mean, I can understand very, very easily why someone would connect those two dots, but we never specifically said that Danny would be taking calls. I just happened to give the number out. Danny Sheridan is with us. We'll take a short break, come back and follow up on some of this in just a moment. We'll also get your phone calls a little bit later on.
It's nice to have the tape.
What is the verdict here?
I don't know, Mark.
A little bit confusing.
Me? You did not. Yeah, we did not say that Danny Sheridan would take calls.
But I said we will take your calls.
We'll take your calls.
Later on.
Yeah.
Which we have.
Later on.
Yeah.
Like we just did with Jim when Danny wasn't on the phone.
Yeah.
So
what's the final verdict there? Are you right or is Jim right?
John's right.
Well, I'm right, but Jim's always right, so Jim's right.
Can we get the Supreme Court to hear this case? Because I don't think there's clear and convincing evidence here. Let's go back to the calls, and let's let Larry decide. Larry, what do you think?
I think he is nutty as a fruitcake, Jack. Who cares? If he didn't take the calls, he did take who cares? Move on. Ain't you got nothing more to talk about than that? Damn. We got players getting locked up, arrested. Man, everything's crumbling in on me about my Bama team, and he wants to talk about Danny Sheridan answering calls. Then you got that dead burn doopy from Tennessee. Hey, man, this ain't a friendship club. Nobody, just pretend that you're not even paying attention to anybody and just call. Damn, he sounds like Linda. And I know Jim's back. Oh, my God. Please, Jim, get mad again. Stay off the air, dude. We got some serious crap going on here, ain't we, Paul?
We do, Larry. We do.
Yes, sir. And beefcakes. Ooh. God almighty, I'd run and hide. What is a damn beefcake, Paul?
You're asking the wrong guy.
It's a muscular man. It's a muscular, sexy man.
I mean, you've heard, Mark Kubiak is trying out for the Chippendales.
Yeah, I think you put ketchup on them beefsteaks or chicks, whatever it is. Beef, what did she call him? Beefsteak?
Beefsteaks.
Oh,
I believe it was beefsteak.
He don't look beefed up to me. Look skinny as a rail and white as a ghost.
Okay. Hey, thanks, Larry. Before this train completely gets off the track, let me see if I can save the program. Charles is up next. How are you, Charles?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Paul?
Really well, thank you.
I'm going to tone my original question down a little bit. I think there is serious issues with, and it's not just Alabama. I know Missouri's had their share of incidents, but it seems like every day it's another college kid and it's not just got pulled over for speeding and had a little bit of marijuana or this, that, or the other. We're talking what I consider serious allegations of domestic assault or destroying property, whatever the case may be. And I think that something has to be done to hold the coaches accountable for the kids that they're recruiting. They need to do more I guess I should say, a better background on these kids that they're bringing in, because you got some of the schools, and I'm going to say Alabama because this is coming up over and over. It seems like it's one after the other. They're not being a good judge of character that they're bringing in. Either that or they don't care because let's just go win. And we'll get you out of jail to play Saturday, and let's go have fun.
But you know something, Charles, we heard it from one of the callers a minute ago, the guy from Louisiana. I really believe this, and I know there'll be 1,000 people that call up, but the average fan, even though they want to act like they care about one thing. They want that player out there on Saturday, no matter what it takes, to get him there. Now, you'll get 100 people that call in and say, no, that's not true. I don't want those type of people on my team. Well, most people don't really care. As long as they're eligible, as long as if you make the winning catch in the game, so what? So it doesn't matter whether you've destroyed property or anything else. Your team wins and the other team loses.
Well, I guess I'm going to be one of the few that would say that wouldn't matter to me, because let's talk basketball this year with Missouri. We stunk it up, no doubt about it. A lot of the kids got suspended. What were they suspended for? It never really came out, but that's not the point. The point was the new coach come in to instill discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Did we have a really bad season? Yes, we did. Is it going to help in the long run? I think it will. But once you start weeding out a few bad apples and you see that some of these start seeing they're not going to put up with this, the rest of them should jump right in line and conform, or they're going to have to hit the highway. It's just getting ridiculous. And I know Alabama wasn't the only one. I know Georgia's had several, and it's just not the SEC either. It's just gotten ridiculous, Paul.
Well, thank you for the call. I appreciate where you're coming from, and I think there is a little bit of that in all of us. But at the end of the day, coaches and programs are judged by the final results, and these coaches have a juggling act in terms of parsing words and trying to hold these guys. I mean, I know big-time coaches have kept players eligible just because they had to win. The players did more things that should have gotten them kicked off the team, but that doesn't seem to matter to very many people.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast. Major League Baseball on ESPN Radio. Last season, the Pirates reached the postseason for the second consecutive season, only to be sent home early after losing the wild card. Will they return for the third straight year? This weekend they face the Cubs, who have plans to make their first postseason berth since 2008. The Cubs and Pirates. The pregame at 3 Eastern, first pitch at 4. Saturday on ESPN Radio and the new ESPN app. This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Rich is next up in Tuscaloosa. How are you, Rich? Excuse me, in Atlanta. Rich is. Go ahead, Rich.
So my kids were in Tuscaloosa. No. Hey, buddy, how are you? Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
Hey, Paul, you're my favorite disc jockey. I'd like to make a request. You know, ESPN hired Phil Steele a year or so ago. You know, he does odds making and all that. Do you think that? No, I'm being serious too. Do you have any plans on bringing him into the show this fall?
Yeah, no, Phil has been on, and I think it's just a matter of hooking up with him and working it out. Yeah.
Yeah, he's tremendous. He takes calls.
Well, according to Sheridan, apparently had an appointment that he needed to make, therefore he couldn't take phone calls. I don't know. I mean,
right.
Whatever.
Right. You're right. Whatever. Covers.com. Hey, Paul, back into the fairway. I did want to ask Jimmy the Greeker. I was hoping somebody would ask, what's the number for Tennessee and Oklahoma? I just think that's the best early season out of conference game, and it's huge for Tennessee. I think it's more important than, well, I shouldn't say more important, but that's a game they have to win, because I want to buy into the hype also, but that's a game they absolutely have to win. What do you think?
I think a win there would really set up the season, but I will say this. If they don't win that game and then beat Georgia and Florida, I think they're okay. But they have to have some combination of victories in those 3 games.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I understand the difference in conference and out of conference, but it would just set them up perfectly if they won that game. Now, Oklahoma, and I'm not Larry from Missouri, but I'm telling you, that's a good football team. I know that people have been down on Stoops, and they got blown out in the bowl game, like you mentioned yesterday, to Clemson. They had a couple of close losses. They hired a young offensive coordinator. I don't know the kid's name, but I have a feeling that because of the neighborhood they live in, the Big 12, this is going to be a real fast-paced attack. They're going to try to score a lot. That's a good football team. That quarterback's back from the Oklahoma nightmare in the Sugar Bowl night. That freshman running back last year, I think that was his name. That's a good football team, and they're going to come into Knoxville. And this is a monster game. Of all the SEC out-of-conference games, I think it's the most important one. Do you think there's a better out-of-conference game early than that one?
No, I think because it's in Knoxville, and I think you have a program that some view as slipping versus one as that's ascending. But no, I would say the early months of the season. I do think the Alabama-Wisconsin game is important, only if Alabama loses. But beyond that, no, there's no question that's the game. If I had to see any of the first 2 weeks' games, it would be at Neyland Stadium.
Right. No, I'm with you, bud. Hey, it's a time. The time hasn't been announced yet, right? I mean, I'm hoping it's at night.
I'll be
That's
shocked.
I
will be shocked if it isn't a primetime game.
Okay.
There
cool.
is another.
Well,
I think there's another really big game that night. Is that the night of the Oregon-Michigan State game? I think it is.
Maybe in the second week. Yes, you're
yeah,
right.
One will likely be on ESPN. The other one. Unless CBS somehow has a shot at that game. I don't know. You will start seeing, I've already seen some Big Ten schedules out. We have not seen anything from the SEC that will change quickly. Let's check out Daryl next in Georgia. Hey, Daryl.
What's going on, Paul? Hey, I mean, Phil Steele's good, but he ain't no Danny Sheridan. I mean, Danny Sheridan is the godfather of predictions, in my opinion. Always has been. I mean, I remember as a kid reading Sheridan's odds, and Danny is very, very good at what he does. Very, very good. I guess this year the Big 12, are they going to, again, take an extra week off and have one more extra week off than everybody else so they'll be able to play when everybody's playing their bowl games, I'm assuming? I mean, not bowl games.
No, the Big 12 plays on the same weekend as the conference championship games.
I know they do, but you know why they're able to do that? If you look at their schedule, they take an extra week off, one more week off.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, they did that last year. I love it. They had one more week off than all the other conferences. And I said, that's a bunch of crap. And it's just because they want to play, so they feel like they got to have a game when, when the championship games are going on, when they need to be getting teams and having a conference championship game. I mean, if that hurts them again, I think it should, because I think they should have one. I know they probably don't have enough teams. But, you know what? I was thinking about college football coaches, and it's got to be one of the toughest management positions that anyone could have. I mean, even out in the corporate world, if you're a manager, first of all, here's the deal: your job is if you get in trouble at work or whatever, you got the opportunity to fix it yourself to keep your job. As a football coach, your job is in the hands of 22 players. They control your destiny one way or the other. And that's just got to be, I know they make a lot of money, but that's got to be a tough job, because you can go from the in-house to the outhouse in a heartbeat. I was thinking about it, I thought, you know what, I mean, that's a tough job, because
it is a tough job, Daryl, but again, that's how they make their living, dealing with young people.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Marcus Spears has arrived, and so much going on. It's great to see you again.
Good to see you, P-Town. I told you, hey, look, man, I'm rubbing off on you.
Oh, yeah.
Last time I was here, I had the black and white on, and I think you're rocking it better right now.
Yeah, my wife got me this tie. I said, black tie?
I figured she did.
She said, the big swagger wears black.
You know it. You know it, man.
I mean, I've been around you a lot. But, I mean, you came into the studio like being shot out of a cannon.
P-Town,
I haven't seen you this fired up.
Listen, I love my job, man. Like, every time I get a chance to, especially when I'm hanging out with you, I love my job. I tell people all the time, Win the day. When I drop my kids off at school in the morning, I tell them, win the day. Win the day. All you got is 24 hours. Make the best of it. That's how I live, man. You know that about me.
Oh, yeah, I know.
6 o'clock in the morning on the bus for Nation. I'm ready to go, bro.
Yeah.
I'm pumped up. As long as you have my waffles,
as long as the food's
my
there.
breakfast, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Don't
I'm
get
pumped,
carried,
bro.
Don't get carried away so that you're ready without the food. Let's talk about this moment because we're 24 hours away from the draft.
Yeah, it's a huge moment. It's a culmination of everything you've done. And I think a lot of people think of it as guys, in college and they had great careers and they've, stood out for the guys that'll be drafted in the first round or the first three. Usually that's the cream of the crop. But it's a culmination of everything, man. Pee-wee football, the dreams of taking care of your family, putting everything that you have into trying to accomplish the ultimate goal for most football players is to make it to the National Football League. So, it's 24 hours away. It's a lot of nail biting, a lot of phone conversations going on with agents.
Night before the draft, what was going on in your life?
Man, I was, I really wanted to get away from it all. It was a lot of work that was done a few days prior, talking to GMs and teams and, everybody. I tore my meniscus before the combine, so everybody, how you feeling? How's the training going to rehabbing? And having those conversations. And the night before, I just surrounded myself with family. I wanted to see the people that had helped me get to that point my entire life. That gave me comfort. It gave me confidence. And I thought that they should share that moment just as well as I. And my mom and, my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and my sister, all of my friends and family. They came from miles away. And we just enjoyed the moment. We enjoyed it.
How nerve-wracking was that day?
The day was nerve-wracking because you're waiting. It's a waiting game. And you're thinking about, a lot of things going through your head. You don't have a choice of what city you go to. You're not determining anything that has to do with the draft process. You've done all you can do. You've done the combine. You've worked out. You've tried to give GMs and owners and coaches a great impression of yourself. Now it's up to them to make the call. And so it's a tedious process, and it's long. Between every pick feels like an hour and a half. And it's like, man, and I'm sitting there and 10 rolls through and 15 rolls through, and we get to 20, and it's 4 hours of sitting in the living room watching the entire thing go on. And then when your name called, it's a height. It's more of a relief than excitement initially, and then you realize I just accomplished my dream.
Just got drafted by the Dallas Cowboys.
Drafted. And then when I heard Jerry Jones' voice on the phone, and I heard
how soon after that did it happen? Well, you see your name.
You see your name. You usually get the call probably 30 seconds before, and Jerry he said, "We turning your name in," and it was pandemonium in the living room. My mom started crying. I thought we was gonna have to take her to the hospital. I had cousins shaking, uncles shaking. And it was great to see everybody in that element because that was what they knew I wanted to accomplish. And, man, it's a great feeling. But then you realize maybe an hour or two after that, man, I got to get to work.
Yeah.
Now I'm about to play with grown men. This is a grown men league. College is the big boy league. Grown men live in the NFL, and you have to start preparing and getting ready immediately. And that's what I got to after the draft party and after realizing, it's just a great time, man. It's a great time, and you want to do everything you can to give whatever organization felt enough about you to draft you everything you've got. So that's what it boiled down to for me.
In terms of tomorrow, and I wanted to ask you about Shane Ray. You know him, and we still don't know what impact that will have on him, but it's going to have an impact.
It's going to have an impact. Your character is huge now in the NFL, especially with everything going on, and dealing with, the issues of the day for each guy. You just saw Deion Jordan. He, third time for marijuana. Now he's suspended for a year. Josh Gordon's situation in Cleveland. It's a black eye on you because it's so much of that happening already. Guys in the program and dealing with these issues. And the one thing that as a former player, man, it really weighed on me P-Town. It really weighed on me thinking about, man, what could I have done? What piece of advice could I have given? And that's for all former players. That's for all players that's currently playing and doing it the right way. You know, I think we need to take more of an initiative to kind of let these guys know that you're stepping off of a college campus where everything is handed to you into the pros where you have to literally fight and compete for everything that you get, let alone take care of your own responsibility when you leave the facility. And I got to thinking, and you know, it's a lot of things that I want to get going to help guys get ready for that, man, because it's so important for your character not to be hit, you know, regardless of if Shane goes where he's supposed to go, regardless of if he drops, it'll be in red bold letter. This guy's in the program, you know, and this was an issue that he dealt with, and I'm wishing him the best. Because, you know, like we've talked about on this show a million times, guys make mistakes. Guys do things that young guys do, you know, and they, you know, it's just a heightened thing because you're a highly respected, you know, draft prospect, and so much is going for you. A lot of people watching you. You had the big special on ESPN in his case, and you know, you just see so much of life that you're fighting for, and so many things that you're trying to get accomplished. And then something like this hits you. Now, it's adversity, and we as football players, we try to thrive in that. We try to say, you know, when things are going bad, we need to be the guys to step up and be the voice and make the difference. So hopefully he can use that as fuel to do the right thing going forward, and also use it as something to keep him reminded that this is a grown man league. Now, I'm responsible for my actions and what I do, and we see it every day. And that's what's bothering me so much, P-Town, with these young guys coming out of college, is that you already know the examples. You already see what's going on with guys that's in the NFL, with guys that's in college. You already see it. It's happened before you. You're not the first to do it. So let's not keep continuing to put ourselves in that position and also be the poster child for what not to do. You know, so that's my thoughts on it, you know, and I feel bad for Shane, but at the same time, you got to pay the consequences for your actions.
Yeah, I mean, some have said maybe it's a good lesson, but it's a cruel lesson.
It's a cruel lesson,
but it's
especially at this time.
Yeah,
especially at this time, it's self-inflicted. And one thing I think they don't realize too is that these people are investing millions of dollars in you. Mm-hmm. You become your own business. Your body, the way you conduct yourself, you are your own entity. So now it's not about suspending them for a game or two while you're in college, and it's not about you know, everybody, you being a star player at college, so everybody's going to try to figure out how to best help you. You're on your own in this league. I mean, eventually, no matter how good you are, if you continue down this path, you won't be in there anymore. That's just what it boils down to, and we've seen it happen to some of the best. I'm fired up, P-Town.
Big swagger.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
I do want to get serious just for a second because, you know, we don't talk about too much outside of sports on this program, but I am curious, as someone who has young kids and who is socially conscious, what was going through your mind the other night when you were seeing the images from Baltimore?
It was one of the lowest points for me when you think about how far, and let's just be candid, Paul, how far African Americans have come, and the things that they've had to deal with in communities, and trying to find a place to say we're accepted. I don't buy it anymore that it's an oppression. Is it bad people? Yes. Is it bad people in every element of business? Absolutely. But I don't think, my sister is a police officer. We've had this conversation before. And I know her to be, and a lot of other white men that she works with, to be great people and considerate and caring. But they also have a job to do. And they also have families to return to after they punch the clock and the day is over with. And for that display to happen like that, and I think about it in terms of my grandmother, right, who's 86 years old, who saw when black people couldn't do things and lived through it to see us all the way up until this point where her grandson gets a chance to be an analyst on the SEC network and work for ESPN and live my dream, right? So the dynamic between her early life and where we are now, it has changed. And she tells me all the time, I'm so proud of you. She pinches my cheek, gives me a kiss, and tells me I'm so proud of you because you do it the right way. And Paul, really my philosophy is if you err on the side of right, 99% of the times, good things will happen for you. And that's what I believe. And I believe if you put yourself in a position to have success and accomplish things, it comes with being good to people. And, you know, you deal with police brutality. I'm not, you know, blind to that. And I know there's some bad cops out there, but it's also bad people too. And we video these cops doing bad things, but I don't see any videos when citizens are doing bad things to citizens. And that doesn't matter if you're black or white. That doesn't matter what you believe in. Now the microscope has been placed on every police department in the United States of America. And you can find bad cops every single day doing bad things because they're people too. But to go out and destroy communities, which some of these communities were already underdeveloped and underserved. Let's just be honest about that. But to go out and destroy places where you have to live and other people have to live, and to affect the quality of life of people that really doesn't want to have anything to do with that, it's just wrong. And I looked at it when Katrina happened in New Orleans. Was that situation handled badly by our government? Yes, I think so. But don't go tear up stores that people have worked their entire lives to have the opportunity to open and serve communities. And, you know, a message that I always, you know, I talk about this, P-Town. You know, me and you, we talk real. And I think about it from my people. And when I say my people, black folks, we have to take care of our community all the time before we can say help us. And that's how I feel about it. My grandmother, I grew up in Elm Grove, which was the hood in Scotlandville, Louisiana. And I saw it. I saw dead bodies. I saw gang violence. I saw guys fighting almost to death. My grandmother lived in that Section 8 housing, government assistance. And I would go through, we would walk up the stairs, and I would walk into my grandmother's apartment, which was on the second floor. And it was spick and span. You could eat off the floor. And she would always tell me and my sister that regardless of where you at right now, you have to live like where you going. And I believe that since I was a young kid, because I saw it from my mom, my dad, my grandmother, everybody that was around. Grandfathers taught me how to work. So I never thought that I would end up in Elm Grove. And I never settled to live in Elm Grove. And I think that's what it's about more than anything. If you're not happy with your current condition, you do and take care of your house and keep your house clean. And if we can start a chain of that with people in these communities, it'll be a difference made. And that's just what I feel about it. But as long as it's black people, we wait and say, well, we not getting this and we not getting that. It's examples out there of people that have accomplished that and that has done that. And I'm never going to look at a man and say, I can't do what he's done. If I have mind, body, and my body is able to do it and able to work, I want to put myself in a position to be successful with the help of God. And that's how I think about it, P-Town. So I really don't like the complaining, and I don't like that we don't get fair treatment. Take care of your own house first. That's how my family raised me. And look, I have sympathy for people that are underserved and have dealt with so many issues, but take care of your house first. And if you take care of your house, and if men start raising their kids in the black community, and if mothers start being there for their kids in the black community, like so many of them are, And if we can cut down on 15-year-olds having kids that don't know how to be adults and they still kids themselves, things will get better. And that's what I feel about it. And people, I'm expecting, no, I don't look down on it because I came from it. But I believe that it's a way to get out of it. And I believe the way to get out of it starts in your mind first and how you take care of your own little territory. I tell my wife all the time, babe, let's just take care of our own little box, and then we'll be able to spread and help other people. But if you don't do that first, then you just out there complaining. You waiting for a camera to show up to complain about where you're living at. Well, it's your responsibility to take care of what you have. And I saw my grandmother do it for 25 years in a bad neighborhood, in the ghetto. I saw her do it for 25 years. And eventually when her grandson learned those lessons, she was able to get out of there. That's how I feel about it.
Wow. Outstanding stuff.
Thank you for listening to the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast. Tune into the Paul Finebaum Show every day from 3 to 7 Eastern on the SEC Network or on the ESPN radio app. Two of baseball's best go head-to-head in interleague action when the Tigers head to St. Louis to face the Cardinals. That one is gone. The pregame at 7 Eastern, first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN and ESPN Radio.